What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Today, and if it's your first time stopping by, you are most definitely welcome. So on today's episode, I'm going to show us how to make this notched collar blazer jackets. So in my last tutorial, I already showed us how to draft the pattern. You can go watch it. I'm going to link it in the description box below. So that's the pattern drafting video. So guys, without further ado, let's get right into the video. So guys, these are the patterns. I already drafted this in my last tutorial, like I said, and now this one right here is the center front and the side front. And guys, before cutting, you can see I added half an inch in between these two patterns, which will serve as my joining allowance. And this is the center back pattern, and also the side back is still the same thing. Add half inch seam allowance or joining allowance in between these patterns, and there's no need to add anything to this side. The side pieces, we already added 1.5 inches as the joining allowance when I was cutting out the pattern, so just in between the patterns for joining allowance. So guys, this is the side back, the center back, then I have the center front and also the side front. So these are all the 4 pieces. So guys, for all the pieces that I cut out, I also went ahead to cut out lining piece for them. You can see this is the side front. I already went ahead to cut lining piece for this. And for the center front, guys, instead of lining, I'm making use of a black crepe material, so that by the time I fold this over, you can see it's the black crepe that will be showing instead of just a lining. So the same thing for the side back and the center back. I've also gone ahead to cut out a black lining piece for this. You can see. So guys, if you want to make use of the same Ankara, the same fabric, when you turn your lapel over, you can make use of the same fabric. But for me, I've decided to use this black crepe. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to remove these pattern papers, and I'm going to be adding, you can see this it's not so hard tissue stay, it's in between soft and hard. I'm going to be adding this to all the pieces except for the lining piece. So I'm also going to be adding this same tissue stay to the lapel, the black crepe that I cut out. That's for the center front. I'm going to be adding this stay to the lapel so that I can give it a little bit of structure. So guys, these are the back pieces. These are the 4 back pieces. I've gone ahead to add my stay to this. So the next thing now is to join this middle part first. You can see this center back. I'm going to be joining these 2 pieces here with half of an inch that I left as the joining allowance. So let's go ahead to do that now. So guys, you can see I've gone ahead to join the center pieces. Now the next thing is to join the side pieces too. Don't forget, this is still the back piece. So guys, I'm going to join this side back here. So I'm going to join that to this center piece like this, and I'm going to join this with half of an inch. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. So here it is, guys. I've gone ahead to join the pieces together. You can see it gave me one whole piece, and I've gone ahead to iron this also. So guys, I'm also going to do the same thing to the front pieces. You can see I've joined the center front to the side front. So these are the 4 pieces. So guys, the next thing now is to join the back piece to the front pieces. So I'm just going to place them on each other like so, and I'm going to go ahead to join the shoulder parts. I'm going to join the shoulder part by half of an inch. You can see I will do the same thing to the other side. I'm just going to use a pin to hold this down. So guys, after joining the shoulders, I'm also going to go ahead to join the sides. So when I was cutting the pattern, I left 1.5 inches as my joining allowance. So I'm going to do the same thing for the side, 1.5 inches joining allowance. I'm going to sew that down. I'll do the same thing to the other side, and I'll bring it back when I'm done. So guys, this is it. I've gone ahead to join the shoulders and also the sides, and I've gone ahead to iron this. You can see it looking very fine. So guys, please take note that everything I'm doing for the fabric piece, I'm doing the same thing for the lining. I'm sewing the lining like so equally. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do now is to take these two front parts here, the center front. I don't want this part to be square shaped like this, so I'm just going to give it a little curve. So from the end of the piece, I'm going to come up by 3 inches, you can see, and I'll just connect that to the hem of this top like this. You can see I'm gonna ahead to cut that out. So this is what it looks like. So you can go ahead to do the same thing for yours, or just leave it as it's square shaped. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do now is to pad the shoulder, you know, just to give it a little bit of structure. And this is a wadding piece. You can see from this beginning I just went ahead to mark 6 inches, and at the middle I came in by 3 inches, and I'm going to connect this in a semicircle. You know, this is just like a half circle, and I'm going to cut this out. So guys, this is a wadding piece. You can make use of a wadding to do this padding. So guys, I'm going to split this into 2 for both shoulders. So guys, that part that has the gum on it, I'm going to place it on this neck part. So I'm just going to make sure this wadding is in the middle, is sitting at the middle of this my neck area, and I'm going to iron this with my steam iron. So you can see guys, I've gone ahead to do the same thing for the other shoulder. So this is what it looks like. So guys, the next thing now is to fix my sleeves. So you can see these are the sleeve pieces, and this is the lining piece. So guys, for this sleeve piece, I'm going to hold this down by 1/2 inch. So you can see I've gone ahead to hold down my sleeve by 1/2 inch, and I've gone ahead to iron this down. So now to place my sleeve on my armhole, you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to come to this part where I have the joining, and I'll place the joinings on the sleeve, and also for the jacket I'll place them together, right side facing right side. And I'm just going to make use of my office pin to hold the 2 pieces together, just the same way you place your armhole to your bodies. So I'm going to use my pins to hold this round. So guys, this is it. You can see I'm not gonna ahead to sew this down, but you can see looking very fine already. So you can see from here, it's the pins that is holding this down. So I'm just going to take this to the sewing machine and sew down by 1/2 inch. So that was what I did. I'm gonna ahead to do the same thing for the other sleeve. So now guys, it is time to place our collar. So guys, this is the collar pattern from the last tutorial, and when I was cutting, I cut this on fold. So I used my black crepe to cut my collar, and I cut the same thing for the lining piece. For the lining, I also made use of the same black crepe I used for the main piece. So, and when I was cutting, I add 1/2 inch as sewing allowance around it. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to get the middle of my collar. You can see I've gone ahead to notch that, and I'm going to place this on my center back. You can see I just made sure that this is at the middle, and I'm going to use my pins to hold this down to one end of the jacket. So guys, to get the same measurements on both sides of the jacket, you can see, make sure that you have the same thing left as your allowance. So here guys, I have 5 inches. That is where the curve is starting from. So this means this is where my sewing is going to stop by the time I'm joining the jacket and the collar together. So guys, I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I'll use my pins to hold the collar down to the neck area. So guys, you also want to note that you stop your sewing from where that curve is starting from. So just like the first part here, also I'm going to make sure it is 5 inches allowance I have. So that means I'm going to sew from that point I've marked here. That is where I'm going to start sewing from. I'll sew from one end, you can see, from one end of this collar to this other end here. So I'll join this down by 1/2 inch, which is the joining allowance I left when I was cutting. So guys, this is it. I've gone ahead to join this down, you can see. So guys, we are still on the collar. So the next thing now is also to join the collar area to the lapel. So this is it. The first thing we did was to join the collar to the neck area. So now to join the collar to the lapel, you can see Just like how I did when joining earlier, I'm also going to make sure I have the same thing left at the head, at the edges of the collar. So here you can see I have 2 inches allowance. I'm going to be leaving about 2 inches allowance, and I'm going to hold the collar down to the lapel with my office pins. So guys, just like earlier, this simply means that when joining, I'm going to stop at where this my chalk is marked. So I'll do the same thing to the other side. So you can see, remember I left 2 inches at the edge of the collar, so I'm going to do the same thing here. So you can see I'll do the same thing at the other side. I'll measure 2 inches from the edge of the collar, and I'll join the remainder to the lapel area. So I've gone ahead to use my pins to hold those parts down. So guys, you can see I've gone ahead to join both edges. I joined this by 1/2 inch, which was the joining allowance I left, and I'll go ahead to iron this. So guys, every single thing I've done for this main fabric, I'm also going to do the same thing for the lining piece. So you can see this is the lining piece. So guys, the only thing I did on this lining piece, the difference is that you can see this part is opened on the center back. That's the part where I'm going to be using to turn the fabric when I'm done. So guys, the next thing now is to place the lining piece on the main piece, right side facing right side, and starting from the collar, I'm going to be holding the collar area down with my office pins, and you can see here this is what it looks like. I'm going to sew this down by 1/2 inch. So make sure that the lining piece and the main fabric are sitting well on each other. So I'm going to sew this down to this lapel area. I'm just going to sew this down here, and I'll make sure I sew this collar area like so to the other edge. I'm not going to finish sewing this. Just make sure you sew the collar area down to the lapel area first, because we are going to do this step by step so that you can turn it easily. So I'll sew this down to this part. So guys, here it is. I've gone ahead to join my lining to my fabric, so you can see what it looks like. I joined this down by 1/2 inch. So guys, the next thing now is to notch those curved area. You can see here between the collar and the lapel, just notch those sharp areas so that they can relax well. So I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I'll just make sure I create notches there. And after creating your notches, guys, you are going to turn this over. You can see I'm turning this over. So guys, when turning over, you want to really take your time, because this is what is going to determine the beauty of this jacket. You know, the notch collar and the lapel is like the beauty of any jacket. So just take your time to arrange your collar and your lapel very well. So guys, after turning this out, the next thing I'm going to go ahead now to do is to iron this. So you can see guys, I've gone ahead to iron this very well. You want to do this with your steam iron so that it can lay very flat. So guys, you can see that my collar is coming out very beautiful. So I've gone ahead to iron this out. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do now, you can see this is what it looks like. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do now is to turn this again to the other side so that we can continue sewing. So the collar turning and ironing is the first thing you want to do when you place your lining on your main fabric. So after doing that, and you've made sure you've ironed your collar and your lapel very well, so you're just going to turn this again to the other side. So this is the wrong side, so that I can continue my sewing, and I'm just going to arrange my lining piece to my main fabric like so, still right sides facing right sides, and I'll go ahead to join the edge of my jacket by 1/2 inch. So I'll join this from where I stopped on the lapel. You can see, so this is me arranging this very well. So I'll just continue my sewing here. You can see what I'm showing you guys. I'll sew this down by 1/2 inch from one end to the other, and when you get to this curved part, you want to make sure you follow the curve pattern too. So I'll just sew this down by 1/2 inch, and I still have my opening on the back piece. That is where I'm going to turn this from when I'm done. Here it is, guys. You can see I'm gonna add to sew this down by 1/2 inch. So this is what it looks like. This is the hem of the jacket. So I'm gonna add to sew this down, and I still have my opening here. So that's it for the hem. So guys, before turning over to the right side, finally I'll also go ahead to join the sleeves together. I'll join the lining piece sleeve to the main fabric sleeve. So guys, when you are joining this sleeve, you want to be very careful because it's a bit technical. If you don't join it right the first time, you might have to loosen it to do it again. So just watch me carefully. So you can see I'm placing the right sides on the right side like so, and I'm starting on that part where it has joining. So I'm just going to do this with my office pins. I'm going to use my office pin to hold down the lining piece to the fabric piece like so. So I'll hold this down, and note that I'm joining this from the wrong side. And you can see the way the sleeves are facing each other. You can see that they are not together. They are on different parts of the fabric. I hope you understand what I mean here. So you can see how it looks like they are facing each other. So right side facing right side, that's how you're going to do it. And I'm going to join that by 1/2 inch. So you can see, guys, I'm gonna add to join the lining piece to the fabric piece for the sleeve. So from that my opening on the back that I didn't finish sewing, that little opening I have, I'm going to turn this over to the right side. So you just take your time when you are doing this so that you can do this very carefully and arrange your fabric. So guys, by the time you are done, you can see the fabric looking very swollen. So I'll just take this now to my pressing table, and I'll really take my time to iron this down so that it can lay very flat. So yep. So before taking this to my ironing table, this little opening I have here, I'll just go ahead to sew this down a little bit. I'll hold this down very carefully, just with a little inch. So this is it. So guys, if you are making this jacket for a client, your customer, you can make use of a hemming gum to close up that part. So yeah, but I just decided to sew this down. So this is what it looks like. You can make use of a hemming gum so it can give you a very neat finishing, so that any thread, your client won't be able to see any sewing. Yeah, so this is it. I'm just going to go ahead now to iron this, and I'll show you guys the finished results. So guys, this is the finished look. I really love the outcome of this jacket. So guys, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and also like this video. I'm going to see you all in my next video. Bye.